Yo, what's good with y'all, bruh? My name is Kauri Taima. Hope everyone is doing alright. And we are going to talk about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero again. This time I'd like to discuss, are we being a bit too harsh on this game? Because I've been seeing people treat this game like it's one of the most disappointing games ever made. And some people might be like, yeah, that's true. Like, we've been waiting 17 years for the sequel to Tenkaichi and this is what we get? Well, I completely understand that statement since Tenkaichi 3 is highly regarded as one of the best anime games ever made, if not the best anime game ever made. This game, I still think it fulfilled its purpose. It was supposed to be a new gen Tenkaichi, a sequel to Tenkaichi 3, and I think it did a pretty alright job at it. Now, I've made rant videos on Sparking Zero, I have my gripes with the game obviously, but I think this game is pretty damn fun. Is it not exactly what I wanted from a Tenkaichi 3 sequel? No, but it did its job at being a modern Tenkaichi game, but I think the core gameplay is pretty good. I know there's a bunch of cheese and bullshit in the game, but same could be said about Tenkaichi 3. It's just that y'all didn't really see the cheese because y'all didn't play online on the PS2. Now the Wii version of Tenkaichi 3 had online, but you know, it wasn't very popular. So most people's memories of Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was either just them playing against CPUs, them playing story mode, or just like fighting their little brother or a neighbor and cooked them and they were like, yeah man, Tenkaichi 3 is the best game ever made. And it's like, y'all wouldn't be saying that if y'all were fighting a person who actually knew what they were doing in the game, because Budokai Tenkaichi 3, some of the same cheesy issues as Sparking Zero in terms of gameplay. There's tons of spam, there's tons of ultimates that do tons of damage. You can just pick Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and win. That's the same way with Sparking Zero. And now the reason why I think this game quote-unquote failed is because gaming was way different back then. In 2007, gaming was super different compared to today. So as we all know, nowadays gaming is more competitive and online focused, which Sparking Zero was trying to mostly focus on its online play. Which of course explains why there's no, like, barely any offline content in the game, which is, you know, super disappointing because Tenkaichi 3 had tons of offline content. I'm sure everyone's heard the same story, man. Sparking Zero, quote-unquote, Budokai Tenkaichi 4 just doesn't have no offline content, no new maps, whatever. Which, yeah, I understand those complaints. I think they should add more maps in a free update or whatever. Now, here's what I think they're going to do, and this might be super cope. So, after, you know, DLC 3 with Sparking Zero, they're going to release more DLC. And I don't think it's going to be just character DLCs. I don't think we're ever going to get Super 17 and, you know, OG Dragon Ball characters in the game. I don't think we're ever getting that. Because if you look at a business perspective, that is not going to sell. People are not going to come back to the game and just to buy the DLC and play as Super 17 and freaking Grandpa Gohan or Chi-Chi or whatever. I think we're just going to get a DLC pack solely focused on maps. Just full-on maps that are missing from the game. You know, Universe 6 Tournament, Kami's House, Space, etc. We all know what's missing, and I think that's all going to be part of a separate DLC pack. It is not going to be bundled with characters, which I'm fine with, but personally I think that should come in a free update. That's what they should do. I don't think they should really charge for more stages. I get that these stages take resources and money to make, but I think it should be either a very cheap DLC, like, I don't know, $10 at most, or maybe just make it a free update. They can just be nice. They can do that for us since we've been begging for it since the game came out. But knowing Bandai Namco, they're super greedy, we all know this, so they are not going to have a free update with maps. They're going to charge for that shit. We've seen that with Tekken 8. I remember people were outraged because they charged for a separate map that is not included in the season pass, which I think was the Heihachi stage, which is a very scummy move by Bandai Namco. That's what I'm saying. Bandai Namco ain't your friends, bro. They're not, because all y'all fans just dick eat Bandai Namco. Like, leave my billion-dollar company alone. Like, seriously, guys, it's pathetic. It's just sad and pathetic how much people just dick eat Bandai Namco and its developers and all that when they really just don't care about you. They obviously just care about your money. Which is why we get unfinished products like Bleach Rebirth for Soul, Sparking Zero, and all these other anime games by Bandai Namco that are published by Bandai Namco. And that is the reason why Tekken 8 is the way it is. Anyway, enough about ranting about Bandai Namco. I can save that for another video. But yeah, the reason why Sparking Zero doesn't have as many players as it did on launch back then is because, well, I said this before in another video, people play for different reasons. Not everyone's going to be an online sweat on this game every day because, you know, not everyone plays Tenkaichi for that. This game's not even meant to be a competitive fighting game, of course. This game is supposed to be a pure Dragon Ball simulator, not some Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, Guilty Gear Strive, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, or nothing. It's not supposed to be that. That's why I never understood why people were trying to get Sparking Zero to Evo. If Sparking Zero was at Evo, that would be a complete disaster. All you will see is nothing but Ultra Instinct Gokus, Mastered Ultra Instinct Gokus, and Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's doing the same shit. Because in Sparking Zero, everyone plays the same in Sparking Zero. I'm not talking about every character, I'm talking about every person plays the same, because the optimal way to play this game is resets. You do combo resets. That's the optimal way to play this game. Neutral is barely a thing in Sparking Zero because there's so many options and movement options that completely skip neutral. So I don't understand why people are trying to make Sparking Zero a very competitive game. I don't even understand why the devs are doing that. Why are they holding tournaments for Sparking Zero with the freaking, what was it, the dramatic showdown? That was trash. We saw how that was. It was trash. It was just the perfect example as to why Sparking Zero does not hold up as a competitive fighting game at all. It should not be at any tournaments. Now, if you're holding tournaments for fun, that's whatever. Like, you're doing online tournaments, that's whatever. But I don't understand why devs are holding tournaments for this game, because they obviously developed this game to be a party game. It's just a party game. I don't consider this like a real fighting game. Obviously, it's a fighting game, you fight in it, but a real fighting game to me is, obviously I already named them, Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, and all that. You know, all those anime fighters like Grand Blue, Guilty Gear, Blaze Blue. That's what a real fighting game is. Not 3D anime arena fighters. 3D anime arena fighters will never be real fighting games. These games are too casual for it to take seriously, because these anime arena fighters are just meant for you buy them, you play them because you're a fan of the anime and you want to reenact the anime in the game. That's the point of these 3D anime arena fighters. They're either two things: cash grabs or just games for the fans. You see, that's why Bleach Rebirth of Souls is mostly story mode focused more than the online. That's why there's no rank mode in Bleach Rebirth of Souls, because they weren't even thinking about that while they were developing the game. They were like, oh wait, rank mode, what's that? What's that? What's that? What? Nobody's gonna be playing this shit seriously? Like, Bleach Rebirth of Souls has a lot of depth. It has a lot of depth. But you're mostly meant to play the story mode, some of the side missions, and then you're done. That's not a game you're supposed to hop on every day, go online. Well, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like, you can do what you want. You can go online and fight people, host tournaments, do what you want. But I'm just saying that's not what it's meant for. The same could be said about Sparking Zero. Now, they did not put 100% into the story mode. The story mode is kind of lackluster after Goku's story, but the what-ifs are really cool. I think the what-ifs were genuinely really nice. But obviously, they didn't have to put that much effort into the story mode, because we already have Dragon Ball Z Kakarot that does a good job at retelling Dragon Ball. Why would we want to play the Dragon Ball story again within a different game when we have Dragon Ball Z Kakarot? And y'all gotta understand too that Tenkaichi was never known for its actual good story mode. Tenkaichi, all three of them, never really had that good story mode. Okay, well, Tenkaichi 2 had a decent story mode. It was pretty good. I think Tenkaichi 2 had a good story mode, and that's mostly because they covered literally everything. They tried to fit the movies into the canon and everything. But anyway, mostly Tenkaichi 1 and Tenkaichi 3. Their story modes were not good. They weren't that good. The main appeal of Tenkaichi 3's story mode was the what if sagas. Like, if you beat an enemy fast enough, you get like an alternate cutscene, or, you know, obviously all those what ifs. And Raging Blast 1 had a story mode. The story mode in Raging Blast 1 was whatever. Raging Blast 2 didn't have a story mode at all. It just had a galaxy mode. That's all. And I remember people used to hate Raging Blast 2 just because it didn't have a story mode. I never understood people who got mad about Dragon Ball games not retelling the story or not doing a good job at retelling it or whatever, because we've seen those stories over and over again since Budokai 1. They've been retelling the story over and over again for the past 22 years. And I thought Dragon Ball Z Kakarot was supposed to be the end of it all. The only reason why Kakarot was made in the first place was to retell the story to kids who have never seen Dragon Ball Z, kids who've only seen Dragon Ball Super. That's what Kakarot was for. To get people caught up without watching 200 episodes of the anime. Now, I think Dragon Ball Z Kakarot should have started in the OG Dragon Ball arc to start from the beginning, but that's whatever. This video isn't even about Kakarot anyway, but at the end of the day, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is not a bad game. It is not a waste of $70. I see so many people saying, oh man, I could have saved those $70. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, man, I regret buying that game for $70. And somebody would be like, oh man, I paid $100 for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero to play it early and I don't play it no more. And it's like, bruh, I hate when people say that. You paid for the game and you got what you wanted. A new Tenkaichi game. Now, if Tenkaichi 3 came out today with all the modes, every single mechanic, the same soundtrack, just, you know, they add Dragon Ball Super characters, people will have the same complaints as Sparking Zero. It'll be the same way. People won't be satisfied because, like I said, gaming is completely different today. Arena fighters, anime arena fighters, in the current year of 2025 don't really fly today in terms of, you know, longevity. Anime arena fighters die out quick. That's just how it is. Not even Dragon Ball is safe from it. Some people might be like, oh yeah, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 is still going on. First of all, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 is not even... that game is not alive. That game is dead too. Probably just as dead as Sparking Zero, if not deader. But they keep supporting that game. They keep getting DLC. That's why people keep coming back to Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Because most of the time, when people are talking about Xenoverse 2, they're either talking about how surprised they are how long the game has been going. They're like, damn, this game's still been going like for like that long, for 9 years. That's what people mostly talk about whenever Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 gets a new DLC. That's it. And either that or mods. That's what gets people coming back, the mods. And Bandai Namco is obviously screwing around with that Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 revamp. I'm not gonna get too much into detail about it. You guys can look it up yourself. But yeah, you can't even play that mod no more right now because stupid ass shit. But anyway, yeah, Sparking Zero. I don't know what you guys expected. I don't know if you guys expected this to be like a Fortnite or a Marvel Rivals or whatever. But yeah, longevity for anime arena fighters is not a thing. It's not a thing at all. Of course, people are going to stop playing Sparking Zero after how long this game been out? 7 months. I'm not even. I don't even feel like doing the math right now. But you know, like a month later after the game came out, people were saying, oh, it lost 90% of its player base or whatever. And like I said, it's because the way people play, and people play for different reasons. They play for different reasons. They don't always gotta be online, booting up the game every single day, be like, oh man, I wanna play some Sparking Zero. Like, not everyone's like that. We might be like that. Me and you might be like that, but not everyone's like that. That's why it lost 90% of its player base. Not because the game is shit, not because the game has no content, it's because of that. That's why. And the people who will be saying this game has no content are the same people that never even completed the story mode. Like, are y'all weirdos? What do you mean no content? You barely even played the game. You haven't even beat the story mode. You just went online and got Zenny and got all the characters and you hopped off. What are you talking about? You haven't even done what most of the game offers. But yeah, man, Sparking Zero, I don't think it's a complete disappointment. There's some disappointing things about it, but I think the game is completely fine. Other than the DLC, what they're offering us with the DLC is pathetic in my opinion. Obviously, DLC 2 with the Diamond DLC, I thought that was pretty trash. But I think they're going to at least cook with DLC 3 with Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Adult Diamond Vegeta, Goma, and all of them. I think they're going to do a good job. I think they're going to do a better job than Xenoverse 2. That's not even me just hating. But yeah, we're just going to have to see the future of this game. And yeah, I'm going to catch y'all later. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe. And I'm going to see you guys later. Peace out.